Good morning, everyone. My name is Jake Raburn. I work at Hinton Farms, and I am excited to bring you the inaugural episode of a web series that we're launching called Be Informed. I have the honor of serving on the board of the Chamber of Commerce, and I currently serve as the vice chair of the Government Affairs Committee. And one of the missions of this committee is to create an educated and informed community when it comes to politics. And recently, we had a major political issue arise that we felt was something that the community should understand. And so we looked for a way to get this message out, and this series was born. I want to give a special shout out to Jim Scott of Jarrett Scott Ford. We needed a sponsor for this new virtual event, and he was willing to step up to the plate quickly and help make this possible. Thank you, Jarrett Scott Ford, for sponsoring the first episode of Be Informed. And thank you to Christine Miller and her team at the Chamber for pulling this together on such short notice and giving us this platform. With that said, allow me to introduce the participants in today's call. Today we have Representative Lawrence McClure. He is the Florida House District 58 State Representative. And we have Kenneth Parker, who is the Executive Director of the Florida Strawberry Growers Association. We've asked them to meet with us today because they have been working together very, very closely and extensively as they help fight to save the Florida strawberry industry. So to get us started, Kenneth, if you could help us and help the viewers get a picture of the Florida strawberry industry and its economic impact here locally on our local community, but on a statewide level.
Well, thank you, Jake. And I don't think we can not mention that you are a strawberry grower, and your family is, and we certainly appreciate everything that you do. Thanks to the Chamber also for putting this together. But you know, the strawberry industry, gosh, it's been around in Plant City for 135 years or more, since the late 1800s, and multi-generational farms continue to farm today. They are what makes up the strawberry industry. It's a multi-generational farms that contribute $1 billion of economic impact to Eastern Hillsborough County. The face of Plant City would be a lot different today if that was to evaporate. So there's a lot of reasons why strawberries are home to Plant City. It goes back to Henry Plant and the building of the railroads and you know, the Plant Hotel, which operated in Tampa. But since that day, it has grown into the industry it is because of free market enterprise and the ability to compete with other producing areas. Historically, Southern California was our #1 competitor in some overlapping periods of time during our season, our winter production. More recently, Central Mexico has become a dominant player in all seasonal fruits and vegetables that are available in the wintertime, and that's put a pretty big strain on this industry. You know, we can compete with anybody on a level playing field, but we feel that the subsidized infrastructure that the Mexican government has done in Central Mexico has taken market, you know, normal market conditions out of play, and so that has led to their rise in production. That has created a trend line, quite frankly, that, you know, it's a glide path over the next several years. If something doesn't get corrected, that we're not sure what the future of strawberry production in Plant City looks like. Will it be here to some degree? Possibly, hopefully, probably. But we need a level playing field so that it can remain the robust economic driver that it is today.
So, and just to take a step back real quickly, I know you mentioned that we're talking about a $1 billion economic impact. And I think that's something that's maybe hard for a lot of people to kind of wrap their brains around because that's a big number. But when we talk about $1 billion economic impact, give us a picture in our local community. Are we talking, where does that lead? Are we talking just strawberry farmers or what other parts of our community are affected by that economic impact.
Every bit of it.
Yes, great point, Representative. You have a sign behind you that says Jarrett Scott Ford. You might call Jim Scott and ask him how important is this agricultural industry to his business. You might call any number of businesses in Plant City that are direct support systems, or just the
Strawberry Festival.
Yeah, the list goes on and on and on. Every business in Plant City benefits from a robust and viable strawberry industry. We celebrated at the Strawberry Festival, and that draws hundreds of thousands of people to town every year, and they're all spending money. The employment factor, gosh, Jake, I would say somewhere between 15 and 18,000 people are employed directly on the farms of strawberry growers. I honestly can't think of many businesses that don't in some way benefit from the strawberry industry.
Okay, and I'm this next question, feel free to bounce back and forth if one of you would like to answer the other. I think most people listening are familiar with the term NAFTA, something we talk about free trade across country lines with to our south and to our north, and more recently, new trade agreement, the USMCA, the United States Mexico Canada agreement. Can you give us a picture on the difference between those, what we expect or what we expected to get out of the renegotiation of the new trade agreements, and how that plays a role in what Mexico seems to be doing with subsidizing their strawberries and fruits and vegetables, and how that affects us?
You want me to take a stab at it?
You might start with 25 years ago. We were left out.
Yeah, I mean, at the inception of NAFTA, we were not included, and at the time, although it was unfavorable perhaps for us, it wasn't as meaningful as it has become over the last decade. Mexico wasn't heavily invested in seasonal fruits and vegetables, and so although, like I said, we were left out, it didn't have the impact that perhaps it has today. About 12 years ago, Mexico started investing in seasonal fruits and vegetables such as strawberries and citrus and blueberries in direct competition with the Florida market. As Kenneth touched on earlier, we overlap a little bit with California on a lot of our production, but generally speaking, they were two separate seasons. Mexico saw an opportunity to get in direct competition, and they've done that, scaling to a size that actually exceeds Florida's production over the same amount of time during the season. And so the USMCA for us represented a real opportunity to level the playing field. Mexico had been incentivizing companies from the West Coast of the United States to come down and start producing in direct competition with Florida, in direct violation with NAFTA. Our only recourse for that was to bring a claim against them with the World Trade Organization. The problem was that you had to meet a standard of being over 50% of domestic production on an annualized basis. We didn't meet that threshold. We're approximately 35%, specifically to strawberries, 35% of the annualized domestic production. When we reached out to our friends on the West Coast to say, hey, look, the unfair trade practices affect all of us, they sort of chuckled and said, well, they affect you. And they were unwilling to join with us in bringing a claim against Mexico, which really is kind of the history lesson up until I was elected to the Florida legislature 3 years ago. And Kenneth and I sat down and had a conversation in which he caught me up to speed on all of that. The USMCA negotiations represented an opportunity for us to level the playing field for the first time in over 2 decades. And we went to DC. We worked with folks on the federal level and the congressional delegation to try and get a provision added to the USMCA that would have allowed for seasonal production to bring a claim against Mexico. So although we weren't 50% of the annualized domestic production, we were over 50% of the seasonal production, and that would have given us the standard we needed to bring a claim. It is our understanding late in the negotiations, Mexico pointed to that and said it was something that they were unwilling to negotiate on, and it was for all intents and purposes a non-starter. And so the administration traded on that and got great relief for the automobile industry and other sectors of the U.S. economy. And we don't fault the administration for that. That's leverage and negotiating. Unfortunately, we were left out. As we like to say, it's not that we think the USMCA is a bad work product. As a matter of fact, we think it's so good, we just want to be a part of it. What came out of that, though, were some very interesting conversations with the Department of Commerce, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and the United States Trade Representative's Office regarding how we were going to square up the unfair trade practices Mexico have been engaging in. And that has led us to really where we're at today. There are alternative ways outside of trade agreements to put pressure on international countries to make them come to the table and quite frankly behave in a proper fashion. And so we have been working very close with the USTR's office, USDA, Department of Commerce, to get some trade remedies in place. Ironically, and we didn't know this when we set it up, we suspected that today perhaps could be the day, but we should hear what the USTR's plan is for bringing those trade remedies forward sometime today, hopefully, but certainly in the next 24, 48 hours. So we're very nervous, anxious, maybe perhaps is a better word. We feel very good. I think we've had we've pled our case in a very honorable way. We've been complimented along the entire path about what a compelling argument it is. Kenneth and the growers here in Plant City bring a humility to a conversation that Jake, I think, would resonate with you. Elected officials have a sense of when their constituents are in very bad shape and they are almost begging for help. And that's been certainly the sentiment here, and just very proud of our folks. But we're closer to the finish line, but we seem just as far away all at the same time.
So one quick question, and I know it's something that the three of us are probably very familiar with and understand, but the idea of free trade, the idea that competition is a good thing, can you explain what Mexico is actually doing and why what they're doing isn't free trade, and
Sure.
why what they're doing isn't competing on a level that is actually fair?
I can.
Be careful with our numbers, I guess. But
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, I mean, when you have a country in Mexico that just doesn't have the regulatory framework as the United States of America on food safety, on labor. Sorry, we had some guests show up. But when their labor is a tenth of the cost of the United States, there's not much competition there. They can produce a flat of strawberries for, less than $2 a flat. It costs us, 3, 4, 5 times that. So inherently, just on the regulatory framework, we're disadvantaged. But then on top of that, the United States doesn't provide land and infrastructure for strawberry farmers like the Mexican government does, right? So now you're taking all of your capital input costs and washing them. They're completely off the table and not in the equation. And when you put that all together, quite frankly, it's remarkable that we've been able to compete as long as we have, in my mind. So all we're asking for is the opportunity. Really, what we're asking for is the opportunity to be able to plead our case, to have a conversation with Mexico to get them to level that playing field.
So what is, if we aren't able to address this issue, if we can't get this fixed, what is the outlook?
Jake, we didn't go into this with any intention of losing. And there's been an awful lot of effort and you know what it's like to build strategic alliances, strategic partners along the way. I gotta say, with support of and working with the Florida Fruit and Vegetable Association, Florida Farm Bureau, and others, I'm not sure that there has been a greater impact by anybody outside of what Representative Lawrence McClure has been able to do. It's the most amazing set of circumstances all along the way. And you know, Jake, you've been there. You was in the legislature. You make contacts, you make friends, and ultimately, you build those relationships so that you can have access or leverage or be able to talk to somebody. Representative McClure has been able to walk through doors that none of us have ever been able to walk through to have the conversation. And he understands the conversation. He lives, his family's involved, his wife's involved in the industry, so he brings a sense of passion and urgency that few people that would be outside of the industry can even understand. So I can't thank him enough for what he's done. I know he's cousin-in-law, and we all have to call him representative, but he has been a phenomenal force in this whole effort. And and Jake, you've been with us too. Jake's traveled to Washington D.C. and walked the halls and opened the doors and talked. And just every chance you get, you have to plead your case. And we were somewhat the underdog going in. Nobody gave us a chance to get this far. But we're still in the fight, Jake. So I don't even remember what your question was, but
I guess so. The question was, what is the outlook for Florida strawberries, Florida fruits and vegetables, if at the end of the day we lose?
Bleak.
Jake,
honestly, not good. And you're having a conversation with, local governments, the state government, federal government, and it's not good. Let's not run from it. And we've told the folks in DC, we've told the USDRs all this. My goodness, Kenneth and I sat down with the trade ambassador and the vice president of the United States and told them that it's not good.
And I think actually, the Department of Agriculture, as well as the University of Florida, the data that they have collected over the years and compiled we were able to use and reports. The trend line is unmistakably it is a bleak look when you look at the trend lines, but we've been able to survive in some fashion. Other commodities are probably more advanced in where they are on that trend line. Look at tomatoes. My goodness, the tomato industry is less than a third of what it was 20 years ago. There is still a tomato industry in Florida, but it's a lot different looking today than it was in the past in terms of volume, in terms of economic impact that it has to the state. The list goes on and on. Blueberries are now affected. Some of the strawberry growers thought they wanted to maybe diversify and plant blueberries. Some did. Some have already stopped. They just got out because not only did Mexico, have a robust tomato industry after NAFTA was signed. They have a robust strawberry industry. Now they have a robust blueberry industry. They're starting. We had a meeting yesterday talking to some of the citrus guys, and it's starting to affect citrus also. So I don't want to say doom and gloom, but it's a challenge. It's a real challenge when the volumes continue to come across as they have in the most recent years. It's a tough outlook, to say the least.
Well, and I know that I'm aware of some of these situations, and I feel like maybe we kind of glossed over. Representative McClure mentioned some of the meetings they'd had with USTR, with the Secretary of Agriculture, even mentioning the Vice President of the United States. And I don't want to gloss over that because one of our local state representatives having the opportunity, being able to build the relationships necessary to be able to go and plead the case of Plant City homegrown family businesses to the Vice President of the United States is a big deal. So Is there anything, Lawrence or Kenneth, that you'd like to share about any of those meetings you've had along the way? Or
Yeah, I got some stuff.
I know you're a really humble person, and I don't want that to be lost on our audience that
Can I tell them the whole story of the vice
that
president?
we've had so far in those conversations.
I'll tell a quick story. So the meeting with the vice president was, you almost want to call Hollywood, right? It's something out of a movie. My best friend in the legislature's kind of mentor, a gentleman that you served with in the legislature, became an ambassador. And so, you just make the phone calls and hope that someone can get you a meeting. I mean, it's that simple. And so, surreally, we find ourselves, we get a call and say, hey, be in Washington, D.C.
Wait a minute, Jake. Before you go there, so this ambassador tells Lawrence, you're the only person on the planet crazy enough to ask that of me. It's like,
well, I called him. I said, I need a meet. He said, how are you doing? We called up and exchanged pleasantries. He said, well, what's going on? I said, I need a meeting with the vice president. And he just started laughing. It's not a normal conversation for really anybody.
He called me and asked me if you were crazy.
Yeah. And so anyway, 2 weeks later, we got a call. Hey, look, be up here. The meeting's at 10 a.m. or whatever. And so we quickly bought plane tickets and went up. But what was maybe probably the most surreal moment of my time as an elected official, and I mean that sincerely, you have to imagine being in the White House and sitting at the table with with Kenneth, who professionally is we've been through a lot together, but is a dear friend and family, literally. And you kind of look across the table. They split us up, of course, and you look across the table and you kind of laugh. You can't help but chuckle. I mean, it's unbelievable. And you're sitting at the table with executives from Fortune 500 companies to discuss USMCA, and there's about a dozen people in the room. And it was probably Kenneth was probably the most courageous I've ever seen somebody in a political setting, or maybe at all, because it would have been quite easy to get intimidated. The ambassador didn't want us to really let the cat out of the bag. You're playing high-level international politics overlaid with an election, and they don't want bad news in these meetings. They want everyone to talk about what a great deal the USMCA was. And again, it's a wonderful deal. It's the greatest deal the world. It's the greatest trade deal the world has ever seen in the history of the world. The problem is we were just left out of it, and that's exactly what Kenneth told the vice president. And it was really, really quite something when the vice president looked over at the trade ambassador and asked him if we had a problem in Florida. And I think, as kind as Kenneth has been in acknowledging my role through this, I think that was the moment upon reflection that we will look at where the whole narrative changed. We had to get to the administrations. Either the president or the vice president had to hear how bad of a situation we were in Florida. And so, to that end, I'll go into a trench with Kenneth Parker any day of the week. He's certainly not going to run.
That's kind. That's very kind.
That was the moment in my mind where we kind of got the ball rolling.
And that's the goal of our call today. Obviously, we want our community to understand the issue. And my hope was that our community can also see the hard work being put in by you, Kenneth, as Executive Director of the Strawberry Growers Association, by you, Lawrence, Representative McClure, on behalf our state representative, and the hard work at your title is state representative, but you've been in Washington over and over again fighting for our community on this issue. And I want people in the community to understand that. I think the last question we probably need to answer here is, where do we go from here? What can local businesses, what can local community members do beyond understanding the issues? How can we all support you in this fight?
Yeah. So, today's we're at the intersection of all of these meetings and kind of the culmination of that intersecting with what is the USTR going to recommend as a path forward. Um, there is an election November 3rd, in case anybody was wondering, and that certainly, I think, comes into the calculus. But I anticipate that they will probably continue the investigation to gather more data. This is a big deal, right? We're insinuating that Mexico is not playing fair. That's not a light, charge to bring. And so I think there's a real desire to make sure that we have it right, whether that takes another 90 or 120 days, to make sure we're in 100% agreement and in a good posture to then have the conversation with Mexico. So that to me would be a phenomenal outcome today or tomorrow, whenever they render their decision. I guess the best outcome would be that the USTR says, hey, look, we're going to open up a 301 investigation into the anti-trade practices of Mexico. I don't know that. Look, you never rule anything out in politics, Jake. I'm sure you can attest to that. I think that's just maybe a step too far at this exact moment, just with everything going on. And again, from a fact-finding standpoint, there's still some stuff that maybe can put the final nail in it. So that's where we're at today. We're looking for them to come out and say, hey, look, we're going to keep moving forward with this. Anything other than we're closing this investigation and we found nothing is a victory. You kind of live to fight another day.
And that's really an insult if that happens. That's certainly an insult. But because we've been encouraged by conversations along the way with the secretaries and the ambassadors. Look, you have done what you said you needed to do, or we've done what they said that we needed to do. And so, coming up with a zero, it's an insult. And I can promise you this, that won't be the end of the fight. In fact, somebody referred to Representative McClure as a rabid state representative. He's just begun to get unleashed, I think. So,
well, look, Jake, there's many ways to solve things, especially when you have multiple layers of government involved, right? So, this is, I believe, well within the purview. It's actually the direct charge of the USTR to look at these cases and to investigate them and then act accordingly. To the extent that they decide that this doesn't meet the standards, then we'll have conversations on the state level. And I would be remiss, Kenneth, if I didn't talk about the partnership that the governor, the advocacy the governor, Governor DeSantis has really brought to the table, especially here ahead of the decision that's coming. He's had multiple conversations with people, with folks in D.C., within the administration, and explaining exactly how dire of a place we're in. And so I think, there comes a point where you can carry the ball only so far, and there's folks that have to buy in and have the conversations on a different level. But I can tell you that the governor is very interested in this, and he wants to explore all options on the state level to make sure that, whether it's deregulating duplicative labor laws or whatever we can do on the state level to buy more time until we can get what we need out of the federal government. The governor is 100% on board.
Well, great. I want to say thank you to both of you for joining us today. I think we accomplished our purposes here of helping our community be informed on this particular issue. And hopefully, as time progresses, we'll be able to bring new issues to our community so that they understand maybe the ins and outs of different political issues that wouldn't be something that they would normally be exposed to, and how that affects them and how that affects our community. Representative McClure, Kenneth, thank you both for joining us. Thank you for helping us educate the community on this issue. I want to be sure that we once again thank Jarrett Scott Ford and the Plant City Chamber for making this event possible today. If you are a business owner or a community member here in Plant City and you've maybe thought about joining the chamber in the past and it just hasn't happened for whatever reason, I would encourage you to join the Plant City Chamber of Commerce. I'd love for you to join us in the Government Affairs Committee. We're always exploring new political issues and how the chamber can help the Plant City community in being successful and growing our community. So thank you for your time today, and feel free to share this video if there's other people that you think would enjoy this information. Representative McClure, Kenneth, thank you for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jake.
Sarah's left us. We don't know how to shut it off.